Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Louis. I am the Director of Product for Generative AI at Shutterstock. I'm coming from the Dublin office. Today I'm going to be talking about art in the age of AI, and over the next few minutes, I hope to give you a sense of the crazy world that generative AI opens up and how you might go about navigating that. Specifically, I'm going to talk a little bit about how it works. I'm going to talk about what it unlocks, some of the challenges it poses, including the ethical angles, and how we're responding to those at Shutterstock. But first, briefly on Shutterstock, quick show of hands, who has heard of Shutterstock or knows it? Yeah, okay, so we all know Shutterstock. We like to say we're one platform, 734 million ideas. That's actually the number of images we have for sale at any given time. That number goes up every time I have to present this slide. And that's just our images. We also have music, 3D, videos, and all sorts of other content types. Now, you might ask, what's Shutterstock doing caring about AI? And in fact, we've cared about AI for a very long time. It's been a core part of our business ever since we added reverse image search in. So this is where you have an image that is very close to the one you want, but not quite there. You can upload it to the site, and we will find other images that look similar. And that's a classic computer vision problem. But that's only part of it, right? So we use AI for years to classify, score, and understand content. And this is critical to our search, especially. So if you imagine you want a really nice romantic picture, well, we have 14 million pictures that are all tagged as romantic. So we need any signal that we can get to help decide which of the images that are best suited to give you the best results. We call that content intelligence, and building on that, in the last few years, we've become one of the biggest data brokers for big computer vision companies that are looking for data sets of images of high quality that are well tagged and that are available for licensing. And we've worked with all of the wonderful brands here and many more to generate some of the biggest AI products that everyone here in the room knows and loves. So we also, of course, have our own AI image generator. Very easy to use. You can come on, generate pictures, and license them. Let's talk a little bit about how it works. And I know this is day 2 of an AI conference, but I'm going to go through it quickly anyway to set up the thread. And the first thing to say is that anything that can be represented on a digital screen can be thought of or packaged as a mathematical artifact, right? A very large number. So, easy example, you have this wonderful picture of Abe Lincoln. You can think of it in terms of pixels. Each pixel has a color. Each color can be represented as a number. So effectively, the picture can be represented as a matrix of numbers. The same is true for words and semantic concepts. So it's a little bit different, but you can still represent words and semantic concepts in terms of numbers, and we call that an embedding, but the principle is the same. You've got a matrix of lots of numbers. So in order to create a generative AI, you start by building a connection between the numerical representation of your pictures with the numerical representation of words and semantic concepts. So let's take a simple example. You want to build a classifier, and you're going to throw pictures at it, and the classifier has to decide, is it a picture of a goat or a cat? And the way we do this is you send it the picture, the classifier will take a guess at which one it is. If it gets it wrong, we'll shake things up a bit. If it gets it right, we will reinforce the path that helps with that decision. And if we keep going through that training process, we end up with an algorithm that can correctly distinguish between this wonderful goat and this wonderful cat. So generative is a very similar process, but in reverse. So instead of going from image to text, we're going from text to image. And it's also an iterative process. So it has a training process to develop the algorithm. But in addition, when you're actually doing the generating or inference, you go through multiple stages, effectively pushing the input and output through the same algorithm. And through that process, we start with some noise as the image output, and we say, okay, we want this image output to look like semantically as close as possible to this text input. And through the courses of these iterations, we will nudge the output image semantically closer to the input text. And hopefully, we end up ultimately with a good picture that represents the input text. And when we say semantically closer, we mean we are nudging the output image to a place where the numerical representation of it is closer to the numerical representation of the semantic text that has been put in. Now, what would happen if you throw something at this which the algorithm has never seen before? So you ask it for a unicorn. There was no unicorns in the training set. Well, it can often do surprisingly well. So in the case of unicorn, it might say, well, we know it's semantically close to concepts like a horse or a rhino. And so we can maybe like stitch those together and end up with something that looks something like a unicorn. But in general, the better results come from having seen actual like direct representations of the things you want to represent. So as a result, because the universe of our human world is big and complicated and varied, you need a huge amount of data in order to be able to build a model that can represent effectively anything. And coming back to the hundreds of millions of images that I mentioned in the beginning, we have that data. So using AI, we have been able to generate, you're able to generate effectively combinations of concepts that have never even been represented together before, or fresh takes on concepts that are well represented, but can be done in a new way. And I recently took a sample of a few hundred images from that our customers have been generating, and the range of the freshness, the creative, experimental nature of it, it was really like mind-blowing. And the only word that like sums it up for me is abundance. And so this is what it looks like. And as you can see, the different paths you can go down, the range of like options, and this is genuinely random. It's not a sort of curated in any way, but it gives a sense of like the wild universe that this opens up. And it's really interesting, like how do we comprehend something as vast and daunting as this world? And one way to do it is to think about these images as points that exist in a big multidimensional space, right? They are all kind of locations. And they are locations in this vast expanse of potential content. And this is a latent space. We're reusing language that is used in the field, but you can think of the grid of numbers that we sort of represents something that we were talking about at the beginning. You can think of that almost like a set of coordinates that show you where you are in that space. And it's a very big space. So if you were to send someone a 10-character SMS message, you have 141 trillion different options just for that one-word message that you're going to send over. So that's the size of that space. So to go to like an image space, you're talking vast, much bigger. And to kind of get our heads around this, we need to lean on metaphor. And my preferred metaphor is a gas giant, right? So a giant planet that you can sort of move through in multidimensional space. And the reason I like that metaphor, partly it's fun, right? Your mission as a creative going in to generate creative artwork is to dive into that gas giant, right, and find what you're looking for. So you need a picture of a cat. Well, that's great. There are a quadrillion ways that you could make that picture of a cat. Which one are you going to choose, and how are you going to find it? In order to navigate a space like this, you are going to need a new set of tools, right? You are going to need ways to move around within that space. You're going to need ways to recognize the good quality content that you're looking for. You're going to need ways to sort of track where you've come from, right? You don't know where you're getting to, and you're going to need a new set of skills, right, to find your way around. So what are you going to find in there? You will find images that reflect the world around us as we understand it. You will find images that reflect the world as we want it to be. You will find images in there that blur our understanding of the world altogether. And you will find images in there that bear almost no relation to the world as we understand it whatsoever. And then to make it all worse, you will find images in there that mash all these other kinds of images together in ways that we currently can't fully comprehend. So to think through what this means as someone actually using the thing, you can generate an image from any combination of words imaginable. You can create stories, characters, ideas. you can bring this in to a place where it is becoming part of art, marketing, education, science. We don't know where this takes us, but the first impression for someone excited about it like me is like, well, what could possibly go wrong, right? This sounds excellent. What's there to worry about? And there's a surprising number of immediate challenges, even for the excited amongst us. So we're going to face big questions around authorship, bias, truth, art, identity. We're going to have to ask questions like, who is the originator of this image? Is it the person that put together the text prompt of a flaming buffalo flying in the sky above Arizona in an oil painting? Is it the team of engineers that built the system that connected that person with a AI model? Is it the team of data scientists that built the AI model? Or is it the millions and millions of photographers and artists that generated works of art that was critical to the training data once tagged that enabled the data scientists to make the model? We're going to have questions like, who is this person? Does she have rights? You won't find her amongst the hundreds of thousands of human models that are featured in the training data that went into the AI model that generated this picture, and yet here she is. We're going to have to think about, did this happen, right? So Yulia mentioned this. It didn't in any kind of like classic understanding of the question, and yet it has also entered the popular memory as a thing. That time the Pope wore the fashion jacket walking down through the Vatican. AI models arrive with bias, and there's been some really good discussion about this this weekend. Bias around ethnicity, gender, orientation, age, family makeup. And these biases are reflections and amplifications of biases that exist in wider society and real inequalities that exist in wider society. So, what are we going to do about it? So, at Shutterstock, we are optimistic. We think there is a way to embrace AI in such a way that creators can benefit and do so safely. And the way we've done it, we've implemented what we call the trust framework. So we make sure we're always training on properly licensed data. We pay royalties to the artists that make it all possible. We uplift underrepresented groups in both the input data and the generated images. We have safeguards on contents produced, and we are transparent by default. So what does that actually mean in a two-sided marketplace like ours? Well, we connect contributors, who are usually photographers or illustrators, with customers who are often the likes of people working in marketing, designers, people who need stock imagery, or imagery for any kind of creative need. And the way we connect them in the world of AI is we start by taking a training set of images and text from our contributors, right? So hundreds of millions of images, and we will use that training set to train a generative model. We then wrap that in a ton of other functionality around which surfaces it up ultimately to a kind of a website experience that our customers can come, input their text, flaming buffalo, please, and we will generate pictures. This is actually free to use at this point, and the reason it's free to use is that we charge the customer when they find something that meets their needs, and we sell them effectively a commercial license. Right? So on one level, we don't sell pictures, we sell licenses. And that gives them the legal right to use that image under indemnity from the company. And we have always had this workflow, right? We sell licenses and we pay a royalty back to the photographer or the illustrator that owns the original image. And now we still have that flow. But of course, we don't have a photographer here. So instead, we have a contributor fund that aggregates the royalties that would otherwise have gone to an individual and then disperses them to all the contributors that had the inputs into the training set. That's our solution to this challenge as it currently stands. It's a moving space. It's something that we will continue to sort of revisit. but this is the one that is working for us right now. So we have a number of ways in which we intervene to try and really uplift underrepresented groups and inject diversity and maintain a sort of the kind of content and quality standards that we can stand by. But the sort of critical piece here as well is that we don't want to create a world where we are sort of replacing the depictions of underrepresented groups with AI generations of them. Human models will continue to be a critical part of our business. And these are all members of our human model community. So these are all real humans, which is unusual in an AI talk. And they will continue to be a critical part of our business. And we're part of a number of different initiatives cross-sector to enforce this. So in terms of safeguards and transparency, there are a number of initiatives across the sector already that we don't think this is something we can solve on our own. But we're also very conscious that we know we don't have all the answers. So if there's anyone here today working on anything that they think might help us, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to work with you. And if anyone somehow hasn't actually generated an image yet, you can jump on over to shutterstock.com/generate. It's very easy. Throw in your prompt, and you'll be generating within a few seconds. And thank you very much for your attention. 2 minutes. Yeah. So I've got about 2 minutes for questions, if anyone wants to throw in. Looks like there's one there. The gentleman in the glasses. Yes.
No, it's over there.
Generative images that come out of a process like that get fed back into the system. Do you do anything like that with reinforcement, and does that create drift or bias?
So the question is about generative output ending up back in a training set. It's a risk we're very aware of, and it's something we never want to happen, right? So we sell photos as effectively like a sub-licenser on behalf of a photographer. That's our classic business model. And if someone comes along with an AI-generated image, unlike a photograph, we don't know the heritage of that. We don't know if it was used with a legally safe system. So we actually have a policy of not allowing contributors right now to upload an AI-generated image that has come in from the wild. So the only officially the only AI-generated images are ones that have been generated within our own platform. There is leakage, of course, right? Because images that, it's not possible to like detect with 100% accuracy. But we are always weeding out like suspected generated images, and yeah, it's something that we're sort of actively monitoring. Thanks. One more question?
Yeah, it's in a similar vein in which if you get generated images on your site and then do you then feed those back into the training data? And then if you do, how would that then affect the contributor fund, and how that would the royalties from those AI images would affect the proportion of royalties going back to the creators?
Yeah, sorry. So I should have been more clear. The AI-generated images that we generate on our platform, they're on our platform, but they do not end up in the training data set. So that's, yeah, it's a...
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Luis, and give him a warm applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you.